Daniel Ventura, and today I'll be answering your YouTube comments on keto. Okay, next question is from Ian Reynolds, and I'm going to read this out to you. He says, I'm hitting 50 grams carbs, 227 proteins, 75 grams fat. I've still got 900 calories to play with from MyFitnessPal, etc. But I can't eat anything because it will tip my carbs over 50 grams. Any tips? Yes, first of all, there's a difference between net carbs and obviously a normal carbohydrate. To give you a brief example, if you've got, let's say, something that says it's 20 grams of carbs, but 10 of those comes from fiber, because fiber is indigestible, it goes straight through your body. So in that 10 grams of fiber, you may have 10 calories. But you physically don't absorb a single calorie. So on the calorie count, it will be coming up as 10 calories, but they're basically, I like to call invisible calories. You're not getting them in your body. So you're only getting 10 grams of carbs. So I'd be interested to see if that 50 grams of carbs is net carbs or total carbs. So once you've worked that out, you'll be able to ascertain whether it is 50 grams or not. And you've got 900 calories to play with. So you want to up your calories. Now, luckily, fat is very calorie dense. For every gram of fat is 9 calories. If you compare that to carbohydrate and protein, they're 4 calories each. So it's over double what you would get from the other two macros. One of the simplest and quickest and most effective ways is, olive oil, coconut oil, even things like mayonnaise. Some people aren't a fan of mayonnaise, but you can have it on a ketogenic diet because it's very high in fat. An easy example would be 1 tablespoon of olive oil, which is nothing if you're pouring it over a salad. That could add an extra 100 calories. One tablespoon of coconut oil would be 120 calories. So if you're making a stir fry or something like that, a couple of tablespoons of coconut oil, instantly you got 240 calories there. You could easily put 3 tablespoons and blend it into your food. You've still got a lovely, delicious meal, and you've got your calorie count there. So that would be the best way to do it. Just add a bit more fat. So olive oil, butter, coconut oil, things of that nature, and your fat content will be up and everything else will stay the same. Got a question here from Eleanor Smith, and she mentions fruit. She says that she has about a cup of watermelon every day, and do I have to cut this out to be in ketosis and follow a ketogenic diet? I'm sorry to say that watermelon is definitely one of the things you can't eat because of the sugar content, but don't worry, there are other fruits that you can have. Unfortunately, it's very limited on what fruits you can have. They're typically just berries. So blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, and strawberries, they're the 4 fruits that I typically eat. You can have lemons, although you probably wouldn't want to eat a lemon by itself, and limes. They're pretty good, but you can put those into drinks, and that will give you a nice fruity taste anyway. But apart from that, it's best to avoid fruits altogether. Now, to tell you about fruits very quickly, to be in ketosis, you have to deplete your body of glycogen. So converted carbohydrate turns into glycogen and fills every muscle that you've got in the body, and also it gets stored in the liver. So they're the places that it gets stored. When you deplete your body of glycogen, your body releases ketone bodies, and then you go into ketosis, become fat adaptive, and start pulling fat from cells and using that for energy. Now, fruit glycogen is different from any other type of glycogen. When you eat fruit, if you eat too much fruit, the body won't convert it into glycogen and store it in the muscles. The only place it will store it is in the liver. Now, of course, the liver is a small organ and will get filled up with glycogen quite quickly. And of course, if you eat too much fruit, you'll fill up your liver with glycogen, and any excess will be stored as subcutaneous fat. So if you eat too much fruit, is very likely to turn to fat. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries, they're very low in sugar. So you can have a big punnet of them. A big punnet of blueberries is about 84 calories, very low in sugar, and very, very unlikely to turn to body fat. Nigh on impossible. Just by breathing and watching television, you're going to burn off those calories quite easily. I hope that answers your question. Sorry about the watermelon, but it's got to go. But fingers crossed you like the other fruits that I mentioned. Okay, so got an interesting question here from EP Cheapy Cheaper Ford. Hope I said that correctly. And she's asked me, what do you do about constipation? Luckily for me, I don't suffer from constipation because I take all the necessary measures to prevent it. This is something that has happened in the past when people have tried a ketogenic diet. And this is typically because they're having way too much fat, way too much protein, and there's not enough fiber in their diet. When you're eating a keto diet, you must make sure that you do have some fiber in there somewhere. Me personally, I have lots of cauliflower, leafy green vegetables, lettuce, red peppers, stuff like that. So that's going to give me a source of fiber. But what I like as a real fiber source is something called slim pasta, or zero noodles. You may have heard of those. They're basically a substitute for pasta, rice, noodles, those types of products. But if you look on the nutritional info on the back, it will say there's 0 calories, there's 0 fat, there's 0 carbohydrate, but they contain 4 grams of fiber. Now, 4 grams of fiber may not sound like a lot per 100 grams, but it's a huge amount on the grand scale of things. And this type of food is very good for your digestive system. Now, that's fiber. So obviously fiber is going to be good for your guts all day long. But what's most important as well is gut bacterial flora. The older we get, the less gut bacteria we produce. So inevitably, you're going to have to supplement something that's going to be missing from you naturally. I've mentioned in the past that my favorite probiotic is Super 8 Udos Choice, which has got 42 live bacteria cells. And they guarantee that billions of live bacteria cells will reach the gut and work their magic and obviously keep you with a clear, unbloated, unconstipated gut. Okay, next question is from Saji K, and he's asked me, can I take whey after a workout and be in keto? The truthful question is, yes, of course, you can take protein. As long as your protein intake isn't too high throughout the entire day, there's absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. Myself personally, I don't recommend taking protein after a workout. If you're getting sufficient protein throughout the day, let's say in a 24-hour day, you're getting 40 grams or 50 grams, whatever your percentage may be of protein, that's going to be enough protein to help you build muscle. If you want to build muscle, it's not so important what you eat, it's more important in how you train. If you're training effectively, your muscles will grow despite what you're eating. Okay, next one is a question from Azur Shad. He's asked me, is it possible to gain muscle mass on a ketogenic diet? And hopefully I can be living proof that this is very much the case. Most of my life, most of my week, I spend in a calorie deficit. I spend on a ketogenic diet. I don't eat a huge amount of protein and I take very natural supplements, and I'm able to build muscle quite effectively and sustain that muscle. So if you want to build muscle, the first thing I would concentrate on is your training regime. If you're sitting watching television, you're not going to build muscle. But if you put your muscles under constant stress, targeted stress as well, create micro tears in the muscle, it's inevitable that when you create a micro tear in the muscle, you're going to go to sleep at night. Human growth hormone and testosterone will kick in, repair that muscle with a thin layer of scar tissue in between. And over time, that thin layer of scar tissue builds up and you will build significant muscle mass. If you're a typical ectomorph body type, so that's someone that struggles to put on fat or muscle in this case, you might need a little bit more help because your metabolism is a lot faster than, say, mine. I'm more of an endomorph, mesomorph, so I struggle mainly keeping body fat off. As an ectomorph, you might need to use creatine. Now, one thing that happens when you go onto a ketogenic diet, normally your muscles, they fill up with glycogen. So you eat carbohydrates, they convert into glycogen, and they fill up these muscles, which are like rechargeable batteries. When you're on keto, obviously these muscles will drain of glycogen, so you're going to lose basically sugar and water in the muscles, which will give you a flatter, smaller appearance. To replace that on a keto diet, you can use creatine. So creatine acts very much in the same way as glycogen. It will give you energy in the muscles, give you power in the muscles, but most importantly, draw water into the muscles and give you a bigger, fuller effect. I've used creatine in the past, and sadly for me, I got too big. I prefer to be a little bit smaller. And looking at pictures in the past, I saw that after 3 months of taking creatine, I started to look like a small bodybuilder, which isn't the look I was really going for. I wanted to be a bit more athletic and a bit lighter. If you're struggling to put on muscle, make sure that your training is super effective. Make sure you're working the muscles hard enough, train long enough, and also use creatine as a supplement. Good luck with that, and I hope that works out for you.